All right. You know, in getting prepared for this speech, I procrastinated like a lot of people. And maybe not everybody in this room in particular. Everybody's done quite well, but I procrastinated. And when my nerves get me, normally wake up 2 or 3 in the morning and start thinking about what it is that's bothering me. So I would come up with a topic. I'd roll over and I'd grab my wife. What do you think about this? I don't know, leave me alone. About the 3rd time, my wife called me on her way to work. She goes, if you do that again, your speech can be sleeping on a couch. So, anyway, I got my, my topic. I'm still racking my brain. Young man came in, apprentice, first year, needed something after work. And I was just standing there talking to him, and he had a cell phone, and he looked at it, and it's cracked in pieces. I said, how'd you manage that? He goes, well, I was walking up the stairs, and I dropped it over there by the chemical feed room. I said, well, if you'd have kept it in your pocket, you wouldn't have that issue. And he said, and he said it with honesty, and he believed what he said, and it was his thought that he was walking from the material connex to his work area. He wasn't wasting any time, but he had a cell phone in his hand and he was looking at it, so it was okay. And I looked and I said, you are more likely to get hurt walking across that construction site looking at your phone than any other time. So, construction is based on happening now. You need your cell phone, you need the technology, you need to know when, you need to cover a phone call, you need to get an email, text. It's one of those things today that we just cannot live without. We operate vehicles, equipment, and we're required to get the location of where the equipment needs to go and where it needs to be moved to. What do you need? Well, you're on a cell phone. Distracted driving is slowly catching up as one of the number one, or nearly the number one cause of fatalities in the workplace. That's not necessarily exclusively construction, but it happens very, very often. I know me personally, without the ability to email, text, or talk on the phone at work, I'd fall flat on my face. I can't do my job without it. I've been guilty of driving to a point, being on a phone conversation. I get there, I don't remember the ride. Don't know what I looked at, don't know what I saw. I remember the phone conversation. The cell phone distraction presents safety hazards far beyond driving a vehicle. In my world, heavy industrial work, you have the use of cranes, forklifts, bulldozers, and a lot of other just large equipment. I've witnessed a guy talking on his cell phone the 5th story of a large commercial project, and they were setting down a pallet of rebar, and he walked underneath the load on his cell phone. Never even knew it. They yelled at him, had to get out of the way. So it is prohibited for a crane operator to use a cell phone on a construction site. It is against the law per OSHA. Distracted employees. As any employee within industrial machinery knows, preventing accidents starts with making sure that the employees are aware of their surroundings. This comes into play. I was working on a project in Alabama, and I've told some of you guys this through the week, and it was a melt shop. A 10-foot exhaust pipe went up about 150 feet, went through the roof and on out of the building. A couple guys, the pipe was so large that they were welding on the interior of this. One of the gentlemen in the pipe received a phone call, and that the 90 was barricaded off. You were not supposed to go past that point. Whatever was part of that conversation distracted the man enough that he walked underneath the barricade off the 90 and fell to his death at 150 feet. So, no, that's a solemn feeling on a construction site. OSHA now says that any member, any contractor on a construction site can be fined and penalized for a worker that causes an incident by distracted use of cell phones. So that means if it's the mechanical contractor has an accident, everybody on site, electricians, plumbers, can now be held accountable for the actions of anybody on their cell phone. Now you notice these pictures. I must admit, sometimes as I stand up here, I could be considered a hypocrite because this was taken with a cell phone by myself. So, guy here, I know him personally. He'd probably want to kick my ass if he knew that I took this picture, but great worker. Just had a downtime, so I'm not going to hold this against him. But you can see at that very moment, he is completely unaware of his surroundings. This goes into a different issue. He's probably in a safe location. Not much going to happen there. There is some crane work, but now you're looking at a different matter. You're looking at loss of production. And it's just something that can't be made up for in a day. You know, everybody has to do 8 for 8, 10 for 10. Gentleman here is standing next to a sign that is turned over, but it says danger, 6900 volts, energized. He's a part of the mechanical contractors outfit out there on this particular job, but he's unaware now. They're doing testing, and anybody who's aware of the electrical industry, a lot can happen during the testing phase of a project. As you can see here, he is a spotter for this lift, but at this present moment, he is completely unaware of what he's got going on above his head. The guy is relying on him to make sure that he is, not going to create any issues with the lift, and now he's potentially at risk by any material that could be dropped. This guy here, he's just strolling across there. You can see all the trip hazards, and obviously this is going to be lifted. So who's to say that they don't have something lifted in the air right now? When I was an apprentice, I feel glad that cell phones aren't around, because when I joined, it didn't take me long to get the reputation of someone who would trip over a heavy pencil line. So I'm glad that smartphones were not around when I got started. And just another one, just completely unaware of his surroundings. From a contractor standpoint, this is a safety hazard, certainly a loss of production. It's said now that the average worker can spend up to 39 minutes a day on their cell phone. Yeah, I did some simple math on that. 39 minutes a day for a 30-person crew that was nearly 20 man hours a day per shift. You know, you got a year-long job, you truly can't account for those hours. You'll never get those back. And another, just unaware and unproductive. Construction employees face both individual and civil and criminal liability for damage that results from accidents caused by texting while driving or engaged in other work. From working on heavy industrial sites, I realized that a lot of the equipment there, in particular, is thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars transporting, moving, and in doing so, you know, you could be financially responsible for anything you damage if you are responsible because you're distracted by a cell phone. Likewise, the employer can be, held financially responsible for the same amount. This isn't an issue as much anymore, but it was once upon a time. The Samsung Note 7s, $2.5 million or 2.5 million Note 7s were recalled because they're exploding. And just recently, on a visit to a job site, one of the little Verizon MiFi cards got so hot that the back blew off, the battery just split in half. So, moving forward, employers need to be aware of other contractors on site. In these times when people are coming out of high school into the construction field, they typically have never been without a cell phone. They've never been told that they couldn't have a cell phone. They spent all of their high school years, all of their school years with a cell phone in their hand, and really don't see an issue with it and can't live without it. I know in the on the job that I'm on, a lot of young guys, and this is truly an epidemic. So anyway, that is my speech. Thank you.